Captain Maya Rios gripped the armrests of her command chair, the recycled air of the TDF frigate Ironclad tasting metallic on her tongue. The bridge hummed with the low thrum of engines straining against Neptune's gravitational tug, screens flickering with data from the mining convoy scattered like panicked fish in the outer system's murk. Her crew, 20 souls she'd handpicked from the dregs of the asteroid belts, moved with the quiet efficiency of people who'd stared down vacuum leaks before breakfast. But today the void felt heavier, as if the gas giant storms were whispering warnings. "Captain, convoy's forming up," Ensign Tara Voss reported from her station, her voice steady but her fingers drumming a silent rhythm on the console. "Last haulers away from the Neptune's Fury rig. ETA to jump point, 12 minutes. Maya nodded, eyes locked on the tactical overlay. The convoy was a ragtag fleet, 6 bulky ore carriers, their hulls scarred from years hauling ice and regolith, escorted by her 2 undergunned corvettes and the Ironclad itself. No match for a real fight, but out here, survival wasn't about firepower. It was about not being seen. Her brother Alex was aboard one of those carriers, the Dawn Shift, fresh off a stint on a Mars habitat. She'd pulled strings to get him routed through Neptune, away from the inner worlds where rumors of alien scouts had started circulating. Family first, always. But command second-guessed everything. A proximity alert blared, red icons blooming across the display like blood in water. "Hyperspace ruptures," Voss said, her drumming fingers freezing. "Multiple signatures, bearing 047, emerging now." Maya's stomach knotted. The main view screen shifted as the Ironclad's sensors painted the picture. Dozens, no, hundreds, of sleek, angular ships materializing from the nothing, their hulls shimmering with energy fields that warped the starlight. Alex vessels, the invaders who'd hit the outer colonies like a plague 6 months back. But this was an armada, 1,000 shadows uncoiling, dwarfing the entire Terran defense fleet's muster. Neptune's faint blue disk suddenly seemed too small, too exposed. "Status on the convoy?" Maya barked, unstrapping and leaning over the sensor pit. "They're scattering, ma'am," Lieutenant Reyes replied, his face pale under the console glow. "But those Alex bastards are vectoring in, fast." Her mind raced through options. Run, fight, hide. The Ironclad could cloak in the planet's magnetosphere, buy time. But the convoy, those miners had families inward bound, payloads of helium-3 that Earth couldn't afford to lose. And Alex, she shoved the thought down, focusing on the beats of her heart against her ribs. "Helm, plot evasive to screen the carriers. Weapons hot, but hold fire. We're not dying stupid today." The comms crackled before Voss could relay. "All outer patrol units, this is Admiral Korovin, Vanguard actual. Alex emergence confirmed at Neptune perimeter. Ironclad Task Force, you are designated Sensor Screen Alpha. Maintain position and relay all data streams to Fleet Command. Do not engage or retreat without clearance. Repeat, hold the line." Maya's jaw tightened. Hold the line? With what? Her frigate mounted railguns that could tickle an Alex scout. And the corvettes were little more than armed shuttles. The convoy was already peeling away, the Dawn Shift lagging behind with a jury-rigged engine. Alex would be in the cryo bay by now, oblivious. Or maybe not. Kids like him hacked alerts faster than officers. "Reyes, confirm receipt," she said, voice level, but inside, doubt clawed. Obey and they'd be vaporized in minutes, data or no. Disobey, and Korovin's wrath would find her later, if there was a later. The Admiral's rep was iron. He'd sacrificed stations to buy time, called it necessary calculus. But this was her people, her blood. "Convoys exposed if we stay," Voss murmured, eyes flicking to Maya. The bridge fell quiet, waiting. Maya exhaled, decision crystallizing like frost on a visor. "Negative on hold, Admiral. Partial compliance. We'll screen and relay. But I'm splitting the escorts." She keyed the task force channel. "Lance and Spear, you're on diversion. Draw their eyes to the debris field at Mark 29er. Make it noisy. Flares, decoys, whatever you've got. Buy us a window." "Acknowledged, Captain." came the reply from Lance's CO, a grizzled vet named Hale. No questions, just the grim resolve of spacers who knew the score. As the corvettes peeled off, engines flaring blue against the black, Maya watched the convoy reform under Ironclad's shadow. Helm, slip us through the storm bands, tight to Neptune's flank. Get those carriers to the jump lane. The ship groaned as it accelerated, G-forces pressing Maya back. Alarms wailed as Alex scouts detached, lancing toward the diversions. Lance lit up first, a brilliant detonation that painted the bridge in orange hues. Her hull crumpling under plasma fire, sacrificed for minutes, not glory. Spear followed suit, buying seconds more before vanishing in a silent bloom. They're through, Voss whispered as the last carrier winked past the vanguard. Jump signatures confirmed. Maya allowed herself one breath, tasting bile. Hale's face flashed in her mind, shared a beer on Titan once, talked about daughters back home, traded for Alex, for the convoy, for the war. Relay all data to command and plot our own jump. We're ghosts now. On the bridge of the Alex dreadnought Eternal Calculus, strategist Kethar pulsed his sensory frills, absorbing the data streams from the forward probes. The human system unfolded before him in holographic precision. A gas giant's turbulent aura, debris fields like scattered bones, and those fragile prey vessels fleeing in disarray. The hierarchy's fleet had emerged as planned, overwhelming, inexorable, yet something nagged at the edges of his predictive matrices. Report anomalies, Kethar signaled to his sub-analysts, his bioluminescent nodes flickering amber in concentration. The humans' response deviated. 2 escort craft had detached, drawing fire with wasteful abandon. One obliterated outright, the other crippled and silenced. For what? A cluster of laden transports slipping into the magnetosphere's veil. Sub-analyst Virek responded via neural link. Loss ratio unfavorable. Humans expend warship to preserve non-combatants. Inefficient for prey species. Kethar adjusted his models, frills quivering. Prey fled en masse. Predators bartered lives strategically. Initial scans classified Sol's defenders as vermin, scattering, infesting. But this willingness to hemorrhage assets for marginal gains suggested otherwise. High-risk predator classification. Initiate. Update propagation to hierarchy command. He watched the lead human frigate, Ironclad, their crude transponders named it, fade into Neptune's storms, evading the vanguard with audacious proximity, not panic, calculation. Kethar's nodes shifted to violet intrigue. Humans were not simple. They were variables that shattered equilibria. Tactics would adapt, isolate, probe, escalate. The cull would demand precision now, lest the prey bare teeth. Sergeant Jonah Patel braced against the troop compartment's bulkhead as the dropship shuddered through Europa's thin atmosphere. His squad, 8 Marines in battered exosuits, faces hidden behind polarized visors, gripped harnesses, the air thick with sweat and recycled oxygen. They'd been en route from series training, a routine drill on zero-G maneuvers, when the redirect hit. Emergency boarding defense on the crippled destroyer Resolute, limping from a skirmish near Ganymede. First contact, Sarge? Private Lena Torres asked, her voice muffled but edged with that series-bred bravado. Jonah's partner, Mira, had shipped out from there last month. He'd promised her he'd keep these kids alive. Save the chatter, Jonah replied, checking his carbine's power cell. Idealism burned in him still. Humanity united, holding the line against the bugs. But the briefings painted Alex as relentless. Biomech horrors that turned ships into charnel houses. His squad was green but loyal. That had to count. The dropship lurched, docking clamps engaging with a metallic screech. Contact, the pilot barked. Alex drones inbound, breach at mid-deck. Doors hissed open and they spilled into the Resolute's corridors. Smoking, gravity flickering from failing generators. Klaxons wailed, the deck vibrating under impacts. Jonah's HUD lit up, red blips swarming the hull. Form up, Torres, Reyes, seal that bulkhead. Rest with me, push to engineering. He led the wedge forward, boots magnetized to the deck. The first drone breached ahead. A fist-sized orb, iridescent shell cracking open to reveal spindling limbs and glowing emitters. It skittered across the wall, firing microfilaments that sizzled against bulkheads. "Contact!" Jonah shouted, squeezing off bursts. The drone shattered, ichor spraying, but more poured through, a chittering tide. Adapting mid-stride, shields flaring against small arms' fire. Torres screamed as one latched onto her arm, filaments burrowing. Jonah yanked it free, crushing the thing under his boot, but her suit was venting atmo. "Medkit, hold her!" The corridor became a grinder, drones dissecting crew with surgical savagery, humans fighting back with grenades and desperation. Jonah's squad held the line to engineering, losing Reyes to a swarm that peeled his visor like foil. Blood slicked the deck, gravity failing, bodies tumbling in the weightless chaos. Jonah's breath came ragged, the idealism cracking under the weight of it. Alex didn't fight. They infested, turned your own ship against you. They sealed the core, but the cost etched into him. 3 down, the Resolute a floating tomb. As the dropship extracted them, Jonah stared at Europa's icy crust below, wondering if loyalty was just another word for graves. Envoy Lume extended her diplomatic tendrils in the hierarchy's war council chamber, the air thrumming with the collective pulses of commanders. The eternal calculus's core chamber was a nexus of bioluminescence, data vines weaving through the walls like living circuits. Lume's engineered form, slender, empathetic nodes, attuned to lesser species, felt the strain of her role, bridge between conquerors and the subdued. "Proposal. Extend ritualized surrender to the humans," she signaled, her frills modulating calm harmonics. "Minimize extermination. Their resistance is spirited, but containment preserves resources. Offer terms, vassalage, limited autonomy." High Commander Thalor pulsed dismissal, his massive form rippling, inefficient. Scans confirm infestation-level threat. Vermin Cull protocol engaged. Kethar's input layered in. Data supports escalation. Human tactics indicate predator adaptation. Surrender invites traps. Luma's nodes dimmed in frustration. Alex's arrogance blinded them. Centuries of unchallenged expansion, treating galaxies as gardens to prune. Humans fought with a savagery that mirrored their own worst impulses, but Luma saw the horror. Mutual annihilation. Override consideration. Ethical modeling project's long-term instability. Broadcast ultimatum with surrender clause. Frame as mercy. The Council's consensus wave crashed over her. Negative. Thaler's directive propagated fleet-wide. Humans designated vermin. Ultim Maya stared at the holographic display in the dim glow of her frigate's command deck. The Kuiper belts scattered ice chunks, flickering like distant ghosts on the tactical overlay. Admiral Korovin's voice crackled through the secure link, his face a mask of etched lines under the harsh light of his flagship. "Captain Rios, the chain's in place. Automated stations, relativistic rails buried in the debris fields. Your job? Lure the Alex spearhead into the first one. Falsified beacons from stranded civilian ships. Make it look desperate, authentic. They'll bite." She nodded, though her gut twisted. The outer line was fraying. Alex swarms probing every gap with their 1,000-to-1 advantage. Her frigate, the Iron Veil, was a speck against that tide, but Korovin's traps were ingenuity incarnate. Ice cloaked in false sensor ghosts, rails that could punch through hulls at near light speeds. "Understood, Admiral. We'll seed the beacons from the civilian freighters we've got on manifest. How many?" "Enough to sell it," Korovin said flatly. "Real ones, Maya, no simulations." The Alex sniff out fakes like blood in water. His eyes held hers through the feed, unblinking. "This buys us time. The line's collapsing. We need to bleed them here." The link cut, leaving silence broken only by the hum of life support. Maya rubbed her temple, the weight of her brother's face flashing in her mind. Safe on Mars, or so the last message claimed, before comms blacked out. Pragmatic, that's what they called her. A miner's daughter who'd clawed her way to captaincy. But this? Baiting with civilians felt like trading dignity for survival, and she hated how easily the thought settled. She summoned her execs to the briefing pod, the air thick with recycled oxygen and tension. Lieutenant Hara, her weapons chief, leaned against the bulkhead, arms crossed. "Real freighters? Sir, that's a death sentence. We can't just—" "We have to," Maya cut in, projecting the op schematics. The chain snaked through the belt. 5 kill zones, each a web of hidden rails synced to detonate on approach. Her role was the hook. 3 battered freighters loaded with beacon arrays mimicking panicked civilian hails. Korovin's orders, but we're not feeding innocents to the grinder. Pull volunteers, military families only, spouses, kin who've signed waivers. Tell them it's for the line. Hera's jaw tightened. Volunteers? That's still blood on our hands, and what if the Aulics don't buy it? Then we improvise, Maya said, her voice steady despite the chill in her chest. She remembered the mining collapses, the screams echoing through rock, choices that saved some, damned others. Her flaw, the one that kept her up at night, she'd freeze if it was her brother out there. But for strangers? Strategy demanded the trade. The descent came fast. Commander Ellis, her second, slammed a fist on the console. "This crosses a line, Captain. We're not butchers. I won't crew a ship that uses families as chum." 2 others nodded, faces pale under the red alert strips. The pod erupted in arguments, loyalty fracturing like brittle ice. Maya met Ellis's glare. "Refuse and you're off my vessel. But go with a clear conscience. We're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. This is defiance, not surrender." By the end, half her seniors transferred out via shuttle, their replacements green but willing. The freighters loaded with volunteers, 200 souls, eyes hard with resolve. As the iron veil towed them into position, Maya gripped the armrest, the compromise tasting like ash. She'd preserved some dignity, but at the cost of her command's unity. The war was reshaping her, one ruthless calculus at a time. From the Aulics Vanguard's command nexus, Kithar monitored the anomalous signals blooming in the Kuiper void. His tendrils flexed against the bio-interface, parsing the human transmissions. Garbled pleas from stranded vessels, coordinates pinpointing a debris cluster. Primitive, yet laced with desperation that tugged at Aulics protocols for salvage and subjugation. "Analyst Kithar," the Vanguard lead pulsed, "assess authenticity. Hierarchy doctrine prioritizes isolated assets." Kithar ran the models, his core humming with detached curiosity. Humans were predators, yes, fierce in packs, but this reeked of vulnerability. No fleet signatures, just 3 freighters adrift. "Authentic within parameters," he replied. "Recommend intercept. Minimal risk to spearhead." The formation shifted, a dozen cruisers detaching toward the beacons. Kithar watched the feeds, fascinated by the human ingenuity in their distress calls, layered static personal logs pleading for aid. As the Aulics prows closed, the ice field erupted. Relativistic slugs lanced from hidden crevices, ice shards masking the rail mounts until the last instant. The first cruiser vaporized in a bloom of plasma, its hull shearing apart at 0.99 C. Shrapnel from the debris field amplified the chaos, turning the ambush into a grinder. Alarms wailed across the nexus as 2 more ships crumpled, their bio-crews pulped by inertial forces. The survivors fired wildly, but the rails cycled relentlessly, punching through armor like paper. Kithar recoiled, his models shattering. No negotiation, no parley, just massacre. Humans didn't isolate and conquer. They exterminated the detached. "Vanguard abort," he broadcast, but it was late. 8 vessels lost, the spearhead limping back. In the aftermath, as he recompiled data, fear crept into his calculations. These vermin didn't bargain. They bled you dry in the dark. On Europa's fractured ice plains, Sergeant Jonah Patel crouched in the research dome's outer trench, his squad hauling cryo barriers into place. The moon's low gravity made every load feel like a dream, but the cold bit real, suits humming against the vacuum. Breath fogging his visor, the dome housed antimatter reserves, experimental yields that could crack a cruiser. Jonah's Marines, 20 strong, fortified it against the inevitable. Alex raiders slipping past the fleet. Private Lena, his point woman, slapped a barrier home. Sarge, these walls won't hold if they bring pods. What's the play? Jonah checked his HUD, Korovan's orders pulsing red. If dome breach imminent, trigger self-destruct. Surface sterilization protocol. No exceptions. The blast would wipe Europa clean, every base, every soul. His partner on Ceres, waiting for rotation, gone in a flash. Jonah swallowed the idealism that had carried him this far. Loyalty to his squad meant facing the ugly truth. Please hold the line, he said, voice steady over comms. Buy time for evac shuttles. But if it goes south... He didn't finish. The squad exchanged glances, the weight settling. Jonah's flaw gnawed, his belief in saving everyone clashing with orders that demanded sacrifice. He'd seen civilians die in the early strikes, their faces haunting him. This war was eroding that hope, one fortified wall at a time. The attack came without warning. Alex raiding pods, sleek, needle-nosed, skipped the outer pickets, slamming into the ice a click-out. Drones swarmed, plasma lances carving toward the dome. Jonah's squad opened up, mag rifles barking in controlled bursts, dropping 3 drones in the first volley, but more poured from the pods flanking the perimeter. Contact left, Lena yelled. Jonah pivoted, spotting the breach. A group of technicians, unarmed, faces he knew from briefings. Scientists who'd shared mess rations, scrambling from a side hatch. They were exposed, drones vectoring in. Seal the doors, his second barked. Protocol, contain the fight, protect the core. But Jonah hesitated, visor locking on Dr. Reyes, the lead physicist, waving her team toward cover. Leave them, and the flank holds, seal them out, and drones punch through. His squad fired, thinning the swarm, but the choice loomed. Cover them, he roared, overriding. Marines shifted fire, buying seconds as the techs piled into the trench. A drone slipped past, lance grazing Lena's suit, alarm blaring as seals failed. Jonah lunged, rifle butt shattering its core. The doors stayed open, the flank vulnerable, but the techs lived. For now. As Alex pods closed, Jonah gripped his weapon, the cost clear. His call might doom the dome, but it preserved something human amid the grind. In the Alex fleet's diplomatic annex, Envoy Lume pulsed against the containment field, her biolumens dimming as the broadcast feeds flooded the chamber. Commanders Thaler and others projected the Kuiper ambush footage, human traps shredding the vanguard, debris fields turned slaughterhouses. Witness, Thaler intoned, the vermin strike without honor. Full cleansing protocols engaged, planetary purges for all human holdings. Lume's core twisted, horror rippling through her links. She'd argued for negotiation, for subjugation over extermination, but the Council's wave had crashed, negative. Now this, propaganda to justify genocide, even as private pulses admitted the truth. We underestimated, one sub-commander conceded in a sideline channel. Their traps, adaptive, hidden in chaos, we deemed worthless. She broadcast protest, her engineered empathy straining. This escalates beyond necessity. Humans fight for survival. We provoke their savagery, seek terms, limit the bleed. But Thaler silenced her, the hierarchy's arrogance a wall. Alex's superiority demanded total victory, yet Lume saw the mirror. Human ruthlessness birthing Alex's cruelty. Caught between, she dimmed, her efforts crushed, the war's moral rot spreading to both sides. Maya's frigate shuddered as the outer line buckled. Alex's numbers overwhelming the traps despite the kills. Reports flooded in, localized victories, but the swarm pressed, cruisers blotting the stars. Korovan's strategy unfolded in the chaos. He'd pulled pickets from a sector, leaving a deliberate gap toward Mars. Funnel them, his update read, into the inner kill zone. Inner planets rigged, mines, slingshots, everything we've got. From the Iron Veils bridge, Maya watched the armada surge through the breach, her volunteers' freighters long since scattered to safety, or what passed for it. The line's collapse hit like a gut punch, ships winking out on the tacknet. Her crew worked in grim silence, plotting micro-jumps to shadow the flow. Mars loomed in her thoughts, her brother a ghost in the red haze. Corrivan's gamble raised the stakes. Draw the horde close where human defenses could turn the belt's debris against them. But if it failed, the inner worlds burned. As the last outer stations went dark, Maya's console pinged. A classified burst intercepted amid the static. She decrypted it alone, heart pounding. Corrivan's seal. Red Choir deployment authorized. Earth orbit. Immediate. The words chilled her. Forbidden tech. Whispers of neural disruptors. Mass psychosis inducers. Banned under every accord. Weaponizing minds. Turning Alex against themselves. Her hands trembled on the controls. This wasn't ingenuity. It was crossing into the abyss. The war demanded it, but at what price to the soul she was fighting to save? The shuttle's engines hummed a low dirge as it cut through the void toward Luna Shipyard, the massive skeletal arms of the yard visible now like the ribs of some ancient beast half buried in regolith. Maya Rios gripped the armrest, her knuckles white, the Admiral's words still echoing in her skull. Forbidden tech, neural disruptors, mass psychosis, the abyss. She forced a breath, tasting the recycled air's metallic tang, but it did nothing to steady the knot in her gut. Her frigate, the Iron Veil, was docked for refit, and the recall order had yanked her from the bridge mid-shift. Whatever this was, it reeked of desperation. The docking clamp thudded home, and Maya unstrapped, her boots magnetizing to the deck with a faint click. A stern-faced ensign waited at the airlock, her uniform crisp despite the yard's perpetual chaos of welders and floating debris. "Captain Rios, Admiral Corrivan's office, this way." They navigated the labyrinthine corridors, past crews welding hull plates scarred by Alex plasma burns, the acrid scent of molten alloy hanging heavy. Maya's mind raced. Her brother Alex was planetside on Mars, in one of those sprawling habdomes. If this briefing tied into the inner defenses, it could drag him into the crossfire. She shoved the thought down, focus on the now, or freeze up like she almost had during the Titan skirmish. Corrivan's office overlooked the yard's central bay, a viewport framing the skeletal form of a half-built cruiser. The Admiral stood there, hands clasped behind his back, his face a map of old scars and newer lines etched by sleepless nights. He didn't turn as she entered. "Rios, sit." She dropped into the chair, the room's dim lighting casting long shadows. No small talk. Corrivan never bothered. He activated the holotable and a projection flickered to life. A lattice of orbital platforms, rods like elongated spears arrayed in precise grids around Earth and Mars. "Red Choir," he said, voice flat as vacuum, "our answer to their bioclusters." Maya leaned forward, eyes narrowing. The Alex fought in swarms, organic ships fused into massive, pulsating clusters that regenerated under fire, shrugging off nukes like bruises. But this kinetic bombardment? Rods from God, updated for the 23rd century. AI-guided, Corrivan confirmed, zooming in on a single rod. Tungsten cord, 20 meters long, dropped from geosync at hypersonic speeds. They hit with the force of a small yield tactical, but no fallout. The trick is the pattern. Rods deploy in a fractal spread, turning a biocluster into shrapnel confetti. Alex biology doesn't handle fragmentation well. Their hulls are too soft, too alive. She traced the trajectories, the simulation showing a cluster diving toward Mars, then blooming into a debris cloud that shredded secondary vessels in the wake. Ingenious, ruthless, but the cost? Collateral. If they're diving inner system, those rods punch through to the surface. Corrivan's gaze finally met hers, cold and unyielding. Affirmative, but we tune the AI for precision. Civilian losses minimized. Minimized. The word hung like a lie. Maya opened her mouth to press, but he waved it off, pulling up a secondary layer. Ground beacons, pulsing red icons in the hearts of New Beijing on Earth. Olympus Mons sprawl on Mars. Densely packed habs, millions strong. Several platforms need manual uplink from these sites. Remote armings jammed by their ECM. Techs on the ground link the arrays. Calibrate targeting in real time. Her stomach twisted. You're embedding the keys in our cities, making them bait? Hostages, if you want the ugly truth, Korovin said, deactivating the holo. Alex know we're cornered. They'll hit population centers first, force us to hesitate. Red Choir flips that. We arm it, or they glass the beacons anyway. Your call on the Veil is to escort the supply runs to Luna, then hold the line for the first drops. Maya stood, the chair scraping. This wasn't tactics. It was calculus with lives. Alex's face flashed in her mind, grinning in that dusty Mars greenhouse dirt under his nails. And if the Alex prioritize those beacons, then we fight for every second they buy us. Korovin's tone brooked no argument. Dismissed, Captain. War waits for no one's conscience. She saluted sharply and left, the door hissing shut behind her. The corridor blurred as she walked, the weight settling like lead. Pragmatic, she told herself. Protective. But trading cities for orbits? That was a line blurring fast. Aboard the Alex Command Nexus, Virex Accord. Drifting in the shadowed approach to the asteroid belt, Kethar pulsed his sensory fronds in agitation. The human inner system loomed on the tactical weave, a web of defenses that defied prediction. His chamber, a humid sac woven from bioluminescent filaments, thrummed with the hierarchy's collective calculations. Seniors clustered at the core node, their forms larger, more ornate, debating the assault vectors with the complacency of unchallenged conquerors. Kethar extended a manipulator tendril, interfacing with the projection. The humans adapt, he modulated, his voice a harmonic ripple through the nutrient mist. Their skirmishes show thresholds. They feint retreat, then counter with asymmetric strikes. Recommend sacrificial waves. Expend lesser clusters to probe their orbital kill zones. Map the thresholds before committing the main dive. The seniors rippled in unison, a wave of dismissal. High Arbiter Vexer, his carapace etched with conquest glyphs, dominated the node. Outdated caution, Kethar. Human fear is primitive. Isolate their habitats and they fracture. Models predict surrender within cycles, no need for waste. Kethar suppressed a quiver, fear or frustration. Humans weren't vermin, they were predators, turning debris fields into ambushes, sacrificing ships to lure bioclusters into minefields. But the hierarchy clung to old axioms, the arrogance of 1,000 subjugated worlds. Their resolve. Sufficiency, Vexer interrupted, severing the interface. The seniors withdrew, leaving Kethar in the dim glow. He retracted his tendrils, pondering the weave's anomalies. Human vessels vanishing into regolith hides. Emerging with boarding torpedoes that ruptured Alex internals. If the models failed, the grinder would claim them all. He signaled a subnode to simulate the waves anyway, discreetly. Obsession was a flaw, but survival demanded it. On Europa's fractured ice plains, the wind howled like a banshee through Sergeant Jonah Patel's helmet seals as his squad hunkered in their trench network. The moon's weak gravity made every step a calculated drift, but the cold bit deep, even through the insulated suits. Jonah checked his HUD. Thermal blooms from Alex scout pods flickering at the horizon, probing the outer defenses. His partner, Lena, was en route from Ceres, her freighter hauling cryoseeds, scheduled to thread an Alex patrol corridor in 48 hours. He pushed the worry aside. Focus on the squad. Private Ruiz's voice crackled over comms. Sarge, incoming priority burst from command. Jonah patched in, the message unfolding in text overlay. Hold position Alpha 7 for Red Choir calibration. Provide ground truth data on Alex approach vectors. Expect heavy contact, no evac until sync complete. He read it twice, the ice shifting under his boots. Red Choir, rumors from the fleet nets, orbital hammers that could crack clusters like eggs. But holding here, Europa was a frozen hell, no cover beyond the cryovolcano ridges, and his 20 Marines were the anvil for their testing ground. Calibration runs, he muttered. They want us as spotters trading our hides for targeting pings. Corporal Hale, crouched nearby with her railgun primed, glanced over. Means we're bait, Sarge. Alex dive, we light 'em up on sensors, then the rods fall. But if they overrun, we hold, Jonah said, voice steady for their sakes. Idealism had carried him this far, loyalty to these faces, to Lena's voice in his dreams. But this? Command was weighing his squad against data, and Lena's route overlapped the fallout zone. He keyed a private channel to her freighter's beacon. Delay if you can. Storm incoming. No response yet. The lag was murder. The squad shifted uneasily, checking mags and seals. Jonah gripped his rifle, the polymer warm from his glove. Loyalty demanded defiance, but orders were the chain binding them all. If they broke, what then? The war's moral anchor felt slippery on this ice. In the dim-lit envoy pod of Varric's Accord, Lume coiled tightly, her bioengineered form aching from the strain of secrecy. Liaison to the hierarchy's subject integrations, she had witnessed 100 submissions. Worlds bent, not broken. But humans, their broadcasts screamed defiance, laced with grief and rage. The coming assault on their core worlds would be extermination, not conquest, and Kethar's models only accelerated it. She extended a filament to the comm array, narrow beaming an encrypted pulse toward a human relay buoy she'd mapped from intercepted traffic. The message was simple, forged in the diplomatic protocols humans still honored: ceasefire proposal, spare civilian zones if you dismantle the kinetic arrays, limited engagement on military vectors, no subjugation, autonomy for withdrawal. Her core quivered as she sent it. Arrogance blinded the Alex. Humans' savagery mirrored it. Peace here could halt the spiral, but betrayal loomed. The pod's sensors pinged, signal away, clean. Aboard the Iron Veil's command deck, now prepped for departure from Luna, Maya stormed the secure line to Korovin's flagship. The Admiral's face materialized, stern as ever. "Rios, report." "Red Choir's beacons," she said. Words clipped, the bridge crew averting eyes as they ran final checks. "Hard linking them into Mars and Earth cities. You're turning our people into shields, baiting the Alex to hit population centers. Millions as collateral for your rods." Korovin's expression didn't flicker. Strategic necessity. Alex doctrine prioritizes breaking will. They glass habs to force surrender. Beacons force their hand. We arm or lose the arrays anyway. "That's not defense," Maya shot back, heat rising despite the chill of fear. "It's sacrificing our own to draw fire. My brother's on Mars, Admiral, in the line." A pause. Then Korovin's voice hardened. "Personal stakes sharpen focus, Captain. You'll lead the escort to the Martian uplink, arm the beacon yourself, manual override if needed. Prove your protection extends beyond family." The line cut. Maya stared at the blank screen, the deck vibrating as engines spooled. Personal responsibility, flaw exposed, her protectiveness twisted into willingness to trade others. She strapped in, the veil detaching with a jolt, Luna shrinking astern. Earth and Mars glowed ahead, jewels in the black, oblivious to the noose tightening. Alarms blared across the fleet as the opening salvos ignited. Alex clusters, dozens strong, dived from the belt's edge, bioluminescent hulls pulsing like predatory hearts. Plasma lances streaked toward the inner moons, forcing interceptors to scatter. Maya's console lit with threats. 3 clusters vectoring Mars, 2 more Earth. Helm, evasive pattern delta, weapons, lock kinetics on lead elements. The veil shuddered under acceleration, G-forces pinning her. The veil shuddered under acceleration, G-forces pinning Maya Rios to her command chair like an invisible hand pressing down on her chest. The frigate's engines roared through the hull, a low thunder that vibrated in her bones, but it couldn't drown out the comms feed looping in her helmet. Her brother's voice, crackling, desperate, cut through the static one last time. "Maya, it's the choir. They're firing blind. Get out, get—" Then silence, swallowed by the blast reports from Mars orbit. She blinked hard against the tears blurring her HUD. The red choir platforms, humanity's crown jewels of orbital defense, had turned on their own. A miscalibration, Korovin's brief had called it. Friendly fire in the chaos of the Alex push. But Thomas was gone. Her little brother, the one she'd sworn to protect, when their parents died in the belt collapse, reduced to a scorch mark on some Martian habdome. Shocked, that was too clean a word. It was a hollow ache, like her ribs had caved in, leaving nothing but the cold resolve to keep moving, because stopping meant feeling it all crash down. "Captain," her XO's voice broke in, steady as ever. "Beacon sync at 98%. Coravin's watching from Titan's Reach. We hold position?" Maya swallowed the lump in her throat, tasting copper. The Martian beacon was the linchpin, a swarm of automated relays designed to broadcast every human casualty, every Alex kill across the system like a siren wail. Grief as weapon, deterrence monetized in blood and pixels. Coravin's strategy: make the invaders pay not just in ships, but in the weight of watching a species grieve en masse. It locked them all in now, no turning back from the grinder. "Affirmative," she rasped, her gloved fingers tightening on the armrests. "Complete activation. Let the Admiral see we don't break." The HUD flared green. Sync complete. From the Veil's bridge, she could almost feel Coravin's distant gaze, that unblinking scrutiny from the command carrier, light minutes away. No words from him, just the ping of acknowledgement. The beacon hummed to life, pulsing data streams of the Mars strike, shattered domes, frozen bodies tumbling into the thin atmo, Alex corvettes twisting in the debris field. Thomas's face would be in there somewhere, archived from his last check-in. Maya's stomach twisted. This was preservation, turning her brother's death into propaganda fodder, but the Alex weren't stopping. If anything, the beacon would draw more fire. She keyed the engines for evasive burn, the Veil lurching as it slipped into the shadow of Phobos. They'd survive this push. For Thomas, for whatever was left of dignity in this war. In the dim glow of the Nexara's analysis chamber, Cathar of the Alex swarm uncoiled his primary tendrils, replaying the orbital feed for the 17th cycle. The bioclusters, those fragile iridescent spheres housing thousands of his kin, shattered like overripe fruit under human kinetic barrages. Debris clouds bloomed in the void, each fragment a silent scream across the hierarchy's neural net. Horrifying, yes, but data, always data. Cathar's core pulsed with the cold rhythm of recalibration. As mid-tier strategist, his role was prediction, model the prey, anticipate the strike. Humans had been dismissed as scattershot vermin, their 1,000 vessels no match for the hierarchy's armada. But this was deliberate pulverization, no retreat, no mercy. He extruded a secondary probe into the simulation matrix, feeding in fresh variables, casualty ratios, response times, psychological profiles scraped from intercepted broadcasts. The projection shifted. Humans didn't fight to win territory. They fought to inflict pain. At 1,000-to-1 loss, they'd still prioritize kills. Their ingenuity wasn't in tech, crude railguns and fusion torches, but in the willingness to burn their own worlds if it meant dragging Alex down with them. Cathar's outer membranes quivered. Interesting, terrifying in its primitiveness. Recalibration complete, he pulsed to his subminds. Human resolve scales inversely with survival odds. They will escalate to mutual annihilation before surrender. The chamber's walls rippled in acknowledgement, biolumens flickering like distant stars. Cathar retracted his probe, a decision crystallizing in his nexus. Standard protocols called for surgical strikes, disable fleets, subjugate populations, but humans thrived on disruption. To break them, starve the chaos at its root. He initiated a shadow command, bypassing the diplomatic overlays. Saturation bioplague vectors deploy against the agricultural hubs on Luna and the Oort fringe farms. Engineered spores to ravage hydroponics, induce famine without glassing the rock. It violated Envoy Luma's edicts, minimize ecological scars, preserve subject viability for integration. But Lume's protocols were for compliant species. Humans were predators, cornered and rabid. Launch authorized, Cathar signaled the dispersal pods. The Nexara trembled faintly as they ejected into the black, silent harbingers of scarcity. Projections updated. Human food chains would fracture in weeks. forcing reallocations from front lines to relief. Their ingenuity would bend under hunger's weight. Or so he hoped. The Europa ice shelf cracked like thunder under Jonah Patel's boots, the squad's mag boots scraping for purchase amid the chaos. Alex's shock forms, those hulking, chitin-armored brutes with plasma vents hissing steam, poured from the ruptured dome breach, their multi-limbed forms adapting to the low G with unnatural grace. Jonah's pulse rifle bucked in his grip, rounds chewing through the lead one's carapace, but they kept coming. Too many, always too many. "Flank left, suppress the vents," he barked into his squad net, voice raw from the cryo filter. His Marines, 8 left of the original 12, fanned out behind jagged ice ridges, their fire stitching the advance. But the shock forms adapted, bio-shields shimmering as they absorbed impacts and counter-fired acidic sprays that melted armor and flesh alike. Private Lena's scream cut the comms. "Sergeant, they're on me. Ah, God!" Her vitals flatlined. Jonah's gut clenched. Lena, the kid from series with the bad jokes, and the locket from her partner. Gone. He rolled behind a crevasse, glimpsing the squad's wounded, clustered in a shallow crater. Ramirez with his gut wound, begging through gritted teeth, "Don't leave us, Sarge. We can hold." The shock forms closed, their underbellies pulsing with charge. Jonah's mind raced, tactics drilled into muscle. Fall back to the antimatter cache, the emergency demo charge meant for denying the site to the enemy. Partial release, enough to vaporize the attackers, but the blast radius, it would catch the wounded. His people, his flaw, that damn idealism, screamed no. Loyalty to the squad, to the ones back home, they'd break him for this. But the shock forms lunged, one tendril whipping out to snag Corporal Hale, dragging him screaming into the fray. Jonah's finger hovered over the trigger. "I'm sorry," he whispered more to himself than them. The charge armed with a whine, and the world went white. The partial antimatter bloom erased the shock forms in a hemisphere of plasma and shattered ice. The shockwave hurling Jonah tumbling across the shelf. When he came to, ears ringing, the crater was a smoking pit. No attackers, no wounded, just vapor and regret, thick as the Europa fog. He'd chosen survival for the squad that could still fight. But the cost? Ramirez's plea echoed in his helmet, a ghost he couldn't mute. Earth's hab spires flickered with emergency lights as the Europa news broke across the feeds. Partial antimatter detonation, squad overrun, ice shelf compromised. Jonah Patel's face, grainy from his last upload, stared out from every public holoscreen, listed as missing amid the wreckage. Maya caught it on the Vale's bridge, her heart seizing. Another name, another weight. But downwell it fractured everything. Riots erupted in the underlevels of New Mumbai and the Pacific arcologies. Crowds surging against the Unified Council's barricades. "Koravin's butchers," they chanted, hurling debris at security drones. The feeds showed families clutching Europa casualty lists, demanding an end to the strategies that turned soldiers into bombs. Koravin's response was swift, a broadcast from Titan's reach. Unrest aids the enemy. The Council cedes orbital control to Defense Command. Effective immediately. Maya watched the Admiral's face on the secure link. Hard lines, eyes like polished stone. He was haunted, she knew, by the station's slaughter that started this for him. But this? Weaponizing the chaos to consolidate power. It locked the war tighter, no room for doubt. The riots would burn out, but the cost was trust, ground under military boot. Envoy Luma's form quivered in the Nexara's diplomatic nexus, her engineered frills flaring with restrained fury as she faced Kethar across the bio interface. Unauthorized bioplague strikes? Against ag hubs? You shatter protocols meant to spare the ecosystem, Lume's protocols which you swore to uphold. Kethar's tendrils wove dismissively, but his core thrummed with calculation. Lume, with her soft integrations and ethical overlays, was a relic of pre-human campaigns. Projections demand adaptation, Envoy. Humans force our hand. Famine breaks their lines without total extermination. She pulsed a warning spike. This invites retaliation. report to the hierarchy core, and your innovations end in dissolution. Her commitment to limited peace, ceasefires, integrations, clashed with the war's grind, but she wouldn't let arrogance doom them all. Kethar paused, then extruded a data filament. A leak. Subtle. Manipulated logs of Lume's earlier ceasefire overtures to human envoys, twisted to imply sympathies. Careful, Lume. Your overtures read as contamination. The core will see human taint in your mercy. Her frills wilted. Suspicion would recall her, isolate her voice. As the recall order pinged, ideological quarantine, Kethar felt a flicker of unease. Obsession with humans was shifting his own balance, but the Armada was coming. The massive Alex Armada transitioned into near-Earth space like a storm front, warp signatures blooming across the sensors, hundreds of vessels, bio-hulls pulsing with energy, blotting out the stars. On Titan's Reach, Admiral Korovin stood unmoving, his staff officers tense around the tack hollow. "Prime every Red Choir platform," he ordered, voice like grinding gravel. "Full yield, regardless of target zones. Cities beneath be damned. We match their escalation." Protests flickered across the bridge, quickly silenced. Korovin's haunted eyes met no one's. The platforms aligned, red icons flaring over New York Spire, Lagos Dome, the works. Human lives as shields, now as acceptable losses. The grinder turned. Maya gripped the Veil's console as the Armada's signatures lit her screens, the ship trembling in the outer picket line. Alarms wailed, Alex probes inbound. Then, a covert ping sliced through the secure net, encrypted tight, from Jonah Patel, listed MIA after Europa. "Captain Rios," the message read, voice faint but urgent. "It's Patel. Got proof from a tech on the choir array." Korovin miscalibrated the Mars strike deliberate. Prav Maya gripped the armrests of her command chair. The frigate Vanguard's bridge humming with the low thrum of strained engines. The message from Patel cut off mid-word. Prov, but it was enough. Her brother's face flashed in her mind. The last holofeed from Mars before the Red Choir strike vaporized half the domed cities. Deliberate, the word clawed at her gut like shrapnel. "Captain," Lieutenant Reyes said from navigation, her voice tight over the comms chatter. "Escort vector confirmed. Convoys pulling ahead. Refugees from Ganymede, 5 civvy haulers. Alex signatures flickering on long range. We hold course?" Maya's fingers hovered over the tactical overlay, the debris field from the Europa skirmish blooming like a graveyard on her display. Jonah's dropship was out there, a battered speck amid the wreckage, life signs faint but holding. Assigned duty screamed in her ear, protect the convoy, link up with the battle group. But Patel had pulled her squad from hell on Europa, and now this. Proof, her jaw clenched. Negative, plot intercept on that dropship. Full burn, evasive pattern through the field. Reyes's eyes widened in the reflection of her console. "Ma'am, that's a deviation. Command'll have our hides." "Plot it," Maya snapped, her voice a whip crack. The bridge fell silent except for the ping of alerts. She watched the convoy's icons drift away on her screen. Vulnerable now, their escorts stretched thin. Alex raiders, sleek, adaptive hunters, were closing from the Jovian shadow. If they hit, it wouldn't be clean. Women, kids, frozen in cryopods, dreaming of Earth they'd never reach. Maya's stomach twisted, but she locked it down. Jonah first, the proof. Then the convoy could burn for all the choice she had left. The Vanguard shuddered into the debris field, grapples extending like desperate fingers. Twisted hulls of old freighters and fighter debris spun lazily in the void, a minefield of silent threats. "Tractor lock," engineering reported. The dropship loomed into view, its hull scorched and venting atmosphere. One engine a glowing ruin. Docking clamps thudded home. Maya was on her feet before the SEALs cycled, mag boots clanging against the deck. Med team to the bay. Secure Patel and any survivors. She strode down the corridor, the ship's alarms a distant wail, her mind racing. Court-martial? Let it come. Korovin could court-martial a ghost if he wanted. Her brother was already dust because of him. The airlock hissed open to chaos. Medics hauling in a figure wrapped in emergency foil, radiation badges flickering red. Jonah Patel, or what was left of him, face gaunt, eyes sunken, skin mottled with burn patches under the suit. He coughed wetly as they laid him on the gurney, his hand clutching a data slate like a lifeline. "Captain," he rasped, spotting her. His voice was gravel, laced with painkillers. "You came." "Stow it, Sergeant." Maya knelt beside him, ignoring the med scanner's urgent beeps. "What have you got?" He thumbed the slate active, projecting a flickering hololog. Grainy footage from Europa's choir array, techs in Korovin's livery adjusting calibration nodes, a voiceover directive crisp and cold. Bias toward heavier demonstration strikes in low-resistance regions. Public resolve requires visible cost. Mars primary target, escalate yield by 40% to ensure narrative impact. Maya's breath caught. The strike on Mars. Her brother Tomas pulling shifts in the hydro farms, waving in that last message about getting leave to see her. The choir rods, humanity's desperate weapon, exotic matter pulses that shredded Alex's shields, but irradiated everything in a wide arc. Korovin hadn't just failed to stop it, he'd dialed it up, to harden resolve, to make the slaughter a rallying cry. "Why?" she whispered, though she knew. Fear, the kind that turned leaders into monsters. Expose this, and the fleet fractures. Alex swarms pour through the cracks. Bury it, and she becomes complicit. Jonah's hand gripped her arm, weak but insistent. "Tech defected. Said it's systemic. Korovin's pushing us to match their ruthlessness. But this ain't survival, Captain. It's suicide with extra steps." Medics wheeled him away, but the slate stayed in her palm, burning like contraband. Maya stood there in the docking bay, the convoy's distress pings starting to filter through the comms. Alex raiders had hit the tail end, 2 haulers venting, screams echoing in the ether. Her choice, her cost. Aboard the Alex Command Nexus, Vesper's Thorn, Cathar pulsed with calculated satisfaction, his neural filaments threading through the strategy lattice. Lume's influence had waned, sidelined to diplomatic irrelevance after her futile pleas for restraint. The envoy's bioluminescence dimmed in the lower decks, her arguments dismissed as sentiment. Good. Humans were not subjects to be wooed, they were predators to be culled. Cathar's mandibles clicked softly as he interfaced with the simulation core. Human fleets clung to their lines like parasites, their red choir rods a crude but effective thorn, disrupting phase shields, forcing Alex vessels into material form for kinetic strikes. But the humans were finite, rods numbered in the dozens across the system, irreplaceable without Earth's forges. "Deploy Variant Epsilon," Cathar signaled to the swarm coordinators. Feigned retreats, sacrificial drone waves pulling back just enough to expose flanks inviting pursuit. Controlled losses, thousands of expendable units, their debris fields masking ambush vectors. Let the humans overextend. Burn their precious rods on illusions of victory. The lattice hummed approval from higher tiers. His models predicted a 73% efficacy in depleting their arsenal. As the first drone clusters accelerated into the void, Cathar felt a rare thrill ripple through his core. Humans adapted, yes, ingenious in their desperation, but predictability lurked beneath. They chased weakness, and he would give it to them, laced with fangs. On Earth, in the fortified bunkers beneath Geneva, Admiral Elias Korovin paced the war room, his uniform crisp against the holographic sprawl of the solar defenses. The legislative inquiry had been a farce, distant counselors piping in from bunkers questioning the Red Choir's disproportionate yields, as if proportion mattered when Alex Hull's darkened Sol's skies. A chime interrupted, alert from the perimeter, dissenting officers, 2 commodores from the inner fleet, their queries too pointed about Mars. Korovin's lip curled. "Emergency powers, Article 17, he barked to his aides. "Arrest them, loyalists to the cells." No trials. The room tensed, but no one argued. Not after the home station massacre, the one that still haunted his nights. Alex beams carving through bulkheads, his wife's scream cut short. Humanity's edge was in its grit, its willingness to bleed for the line. The counselors would see that. "Comms," he continued, voice steel. Broadcast Package Delta, victories only. Jupiter, pickets holding. Europa, traps sprung. Mask the civvy tolls. Let them see defiance, not graves. Screens flickered to life across the planet. Edited feeds of human frigates dodging fire, choir pulses blooming like defiant stars. Cheers erupted in shelters, but Korovin knew the truth. Casualties in the millions. Morale a fraying thread. It had to hold, or everything burned. Maya stared at the slate in her quarters. The Vanguard limping back toward the convoy's remnants. 3 haulers saved, 2 ghosts. Jonah slept in medbay, irradiated but stable, his words echoing, "This ain't survival." Her brother's death engineered. To forge unity from ash. Expose Korovin and the front crumbles. Alex floods in, no mercy for Mars survivors or Ceres miners. Stay silent and she trades her soul for the fleets. Her fingers trembled as she accessed the anonymous mesh channel, a shadow net for whistleblowers and smugglers. The log files uploaded in bursts, encrypted but traceable if anyone cared to look. Not an accusation, just the directive, raw and unfiltered. Let the public chew on it, erode Korovin's base without naming him. She hit send, then switched to the open fleet comm. "This is Captain Rios, Vanguard. Affirming command structure under Admiral Korovin. All units tighten formations. Alex incoming. We hold the line." The words tasted like bile, but the fleet's response crackled back. Acknowledgements, a fragile web of resolve. She'd bought time. Maybe enough. The decisive clash ignited near Earth's orbit, a maelstrom of fire and void. Alex armadas blotched the stars, 1,000 ships for every human vessel, their swarms weaving in phase-shifted dances, drones blotting out the sun. Maya's Vanguard anchored a picket line, choir rods primed in the bays, her crew's faces etched with the war's grind. Reyes at nav, sweat beading, engineering chief cursing fuel margins. "Contacts everywhere," sensors yelled. Alex formation surged, then peeled back in feints, luring the human flanks. Maya saw it, the trap, Kethar's handiwork. Drones sacrificing themselves in droves. Debris clouds hiding strike cruisers. But humanity had layered its own hell. Minefields seeded in the retreat paths, automated turrets synced to choir bursts, frigates playing dead amid the wreckage. A rod launched from the Vanguard, its pulse ripping through an Alex cluster. Shields flickered, hulls cracked, 1,000 drones erupting in silent blooms. Metrics scrolled across her display. 1 human loss for 1,000 Alex. Traps sprung in sequence. Ambush vectors from lunar shadows, railgun volleys from hidden asteroid forts. No glory, just blood earned in the black. "Incoming wave," Reyes shouted. The Vanguard bucked under plasma lances, hull groaning. Maya braced, calling maneuvers, her mind a storm of tactics and doubt. The leak, had it landed, Korovin's grip slipping, an Alex cruiser materialized too close, its beams carving the void. Then every screen split, fleet-wide, unbidden. The Unified Council's seal, emergency session feed. Korovin's face, ashen, mid-briefing. A vote tally scrolled, 62% against. Admiral Korovin relieved of command, effective immediately, the chair intoned, voice grave. Authority transfers to Captain Maya Rios, Terran Defense Fleet. All units stand by for new directives. The bridge froze. Maya's heart hammered, unprepared eyes locking on the hollow. Live on every channel, shelters, ships, the dying front. Korovin's loyalists scrambled in the background, but the die was cast. The war's weight slammed onto her, mid-slaughter as Alex fire rained down. The bridge of the TDF Indomitable shuddered under another Alex plasma barrage, the hull groaning like a beast on its last breath. Maya's fingers dug into the armrests of the command chair, her vision tunneling on the central holo display. Korovin's face flickered there, pale and slack, his eyes wide in the instant before the feed cut to static. Assassinated, the admiral who'd dragged her into this grinder, who'd whispered strategies that tasted like ash, gone in a blink. And now the weight of it all, every frigate, every orbital fort, every desperate soul in the Sol system landed square on her. "Captain, Supreme Commander Rios," Ensign Hale stammered from the comm station, his voice cracking. Fleet channels are lighting up. Confirmation from HighCom. You're in charge. All assets report to you. The Alex are breaking through the outer pickets. ETA to inner defenses. 12 minutes. Maya's throat tightened. The red choir. Those godforsaken kinetic rods. Slung in geosync orbits like swords over Damascus. Each one a city killer forged from asteroid iron and human desperation. Korovin had primed them months ago, a final gambit, dropped them on the Alex Armada as it closed on Earth and Mars. But the firing arcs overlapped human megacities. Billions at risk. Trigger them now and she'd save the species, but paint the skies with her own people's blood. Hold back and the Alex cleansing beams would scour the planets clean. No mercy for the predator vermin they'd come to exterminate. Her mind raced through the vectors, the math she'd run 100 times in Sims. The hatchery ships at the Armada's core, those bloated Alex vessels birthing trillions of larvae for the next wave, were the key. Smash them, and the invasion stalled for generations. But the rods didn't discriminate. Shanghai, Lagos, the Mumbai arcology would catch the fringes, fallout chaining into firestorms. Options, she barked, forcing her voice steady. The bridge crew snapped to, holograms blooming with trajectories. Hale's hands flew over his console. Partial salvo. We could retarget some. No time, Maya cut in, her pulse thundering in her ears. Outside the viewport, Alex drones swarmed like angry hornets, their iridescent hulls catching the sun's glare. One clipped the Indomitable's flank, sending sparks dancing across the deck. She thought of her brother on Mars, huddled in some red dust bunker, waiting for her to pull this off. Or not. The terror she'd buried, the freeze that hit her in training drills, the miner's panic of endless void, clawed up now, but she shoved it down. Not today, far across the void. In the shadowed nerve center of the Alex carrier Nexus Prime, Kether pulsed with agitation, his chitinous limbs clicking against the data weave floor. The human resistance had defied every model. Improvised nukes turning debris fields into kill zones, suicide runs cracking capital ships, a ruthlessness that mirrored the hierarchy's own, but amplified by some feral ingenuity. Numbers favored the Alex, 1,000 to 1, yet here they were. Fleets evaporating, hatcheries exposed. The chamber thrummed with the superior's presences. Overlord Vexar, a towering form of layered armor and neural spines, flanked by enforcer drones. Kethar projected his analysis. Cascading defeats, supply lines severed, human countermeasures adapting faster than simulations predicted. We stand on the precipice, he transmitted, his bioluminescent patterns flashing urgent yellows. Core fleets intact but losses unsustainable. Authorize withdrawal to the Oort boundary. Negotiate from strength. Preserve the swarm for the long cycle. Vexar's response was a psychic lash, pain spiking through Kethar's nodes. Defeatism, the word hung in the ether like venom. You who modeled these primitives as curiosities now counsel retreat. The hierarchy does not yield to vermin. Enforcers closed in, their mandibles humming. Kethar felt the noose of protocol tightening. Execution for undermining resolve. But the human's shadow loomed larger than any simulation. They'd forced this doubt, this fracture. He pulsed one final datum. The red choir signatures building in Sol's orbits. Weapons of annihilation aimed at the heart. In a cramped escort shuttle slicing toward the front lines, Envoy Lume huddled in a restraint web, the air thick with the guard's chemical disdain. Bio-engineered for diplomacy, her form was softer than the warrior's. Iridescent skin etched with patterns of negotiation sigils. But the hierarchy saw failure in her peace overtures, deemed her soft for suggesting the humans might be integrated, not erased. Now bound for a show trial amid the dying fleet, she felt the war's rot in her core. Alex arrogance birthing this slaughter, human fury mirroring it back. The shuttle banked hard, evading a human missile swarm. Her guards chittered orders, distracted by the chaos. Lume's mind raced, a narrow window, her implant still linked to the carrier's burst transmitter before full severance. Fingers twitching against the web. She initiated a covert pulse, bypassing protocols. Direct to the human commander, The one they'd profiled, Rios, the pragmatic miner-turned-killer. The message beamed out, encrypted in neutral spectrum code. Immediate retreat of all Alex forces if you withhold the final orbital strike on our hatcheries. No further incursion. The juveniles are blameless. Billions unborn, a generation's hope. Cease, and we withdraw. Mercy for mercy. She severed the link just as a guard's sensor swept her. The shuttle lurched into the fray, but the die was cast. Luma's patterns dimmed. If this failed, her exile would be the least of it. Back on the Indomitable's bridge, the comms ping shattered the tension. Hale's eyes widened. Incoming transmission, Alex origin, but not encrypted hostile. It's an offer. Surrender terms. From their envoy. Maya leaned forward, the hollow resolving into Luma's form, her voice a layered harmonic through the translator. The words hit like a gut punch. Retreat for restraint. No rods on the hatcheries. Her mind spun the calculus. Accept, and the Alex lived to rebuild. A generation, maybe two, then back with lessons learned from this bloodbath. Their empire spanned stars. Soul was just a thorn. But fire the full choir, the hatcheries would bloom into plasma, exterminating untold Alex young. Xenocide, deliberate and cold. And the arcs. Simulations showed 3 megacities vaporized, fallout dooming 500 million more. Her brother's face flashed in her mind. Then the squad leaders like Patel, holding lines with nothing but grit. Run the projections, she ordered, voice low. The bridge hummed as AIs crunched numbers. Partial activation. Retarget some rods to deep space. Hit the Armada core but shear the edges. Feasible, but it demanded manual overrides. Boots on the ground in the orbital nets, under fire. Risky, bloody. A new feed crackled open. Sergeant Jonah Patel's face, grimed and sweat-streaked, from a burning platform high above Earth's curve. His squad's live relay. Flames licking bulkheads. Alex boarders clawing at airlocks. Jonah's eyes, usually steady with that quiet idealism, burned now with something harder. Commander Rios, this is Patel, Europa Marines, Station Theta 9. We're holding the East Array. I see the choir signatures lighting up. We can manual override the diverters, redirect half the rods out system, buy you clean shots on their hatchers without hitting the cities below. Maya's breath caught. Override nodes like his were suicide posts. Hack the trajectories mid-drop, then ride the platform into the blast radius as countermeasures swarmed. His squad, 12 souls, including him. Jonah had a partner on Ceres, some engineer he'd talked about in briefings, voice softening just once. Sergeant, that's volunteering, ma'am, he cut in, a distant explosion rocking his feed. My team's geared for it, reduces collateral by 40%. Gets you the win without turning us into them. His jaw set, but his eyes flickered. Doubt, the weight of leaving her behind, unspoken. The bridge fell silent. Maya saw the cost etched in his face. Loyalty cracking under the grind, that moral anchor bending. She nodded, the word sticking. Approved. Godspeed, Sergeant. Jonah's feed cut as his squad moved. Shadows darting through corridors alive with alarms. The decision crystallized. Maya slammed her fist on the console. Partial activation. Target the hatcheries and Armada core. 80% rods. Divert the rest via Theta 9 and auxiliaries. Fire on my mark. The choir sang. From orbit, rails accelerated the iron spears. Each a streak of hellfire, silent and inexorable. They punched through the Alex formation, slamming into the hatchery spheres. Blooms of debris erupted, the biovats rupturing in chains of vapor and chitin fragments. Alex ships shattered, their 1,000-to-1 edge crumbling into wreckage, but not clean. Fringes kissed human skies, fires blooming over secondary cities, screams echoing in the feeds. Theta 9 vanished in a whiteout. Jonah's last transmission, a clipped for series before static. The Armada broke. Survivors fleeing into the black. Victory pyrrhic and stained. Weeks blurred into tribunals. In the sterile halls of New Geneva Station, Maya stood before the panel, her uniform crisp, but her hands trembling under the table. Hollow replays looped the choir's fall, the hatchery's end. Billions of Alex juveniles erased, a deliberate cull. "We had no choice," she said, voice steady despite the knot in her gut. "They came for extinction. We chose survival. But yes, we became the monsters they feared. The line blurred, and we crossed it." The judges' faces were stone. No verdict yet, but the brand stuck. Humanity capable of xenocide. Across the stars in a dim hierarchy vault, Cathar's execution was quiet. A neural severance, his patterns fading to black. Failure catalogued, body recycled. Lume vanished into the outer hives. Her voice silenced in exile, whispers of her transmission buried. On Ceres, Jonah's partner Lena clutched the recorded farewell, his voice rough over the crackle. "Couldn't let it take everything. Tell the kids I fought clean." She stared at the domed stars, grief hollowing her. Years later, Maya walked the skeletal frame of the last Red Choir platform, drones humming as they dismantled the rails. Gray streaked her hair now, the tribunal's shadow a constant ache. Her brother lived, Mars rebuilt, but the cost lingered in nightmares. The juvenile's silent end, Jonah's ghost. A probe's feed pinged her wrist link, deep space images faint but clear. An Alex remnant array broadcasting in the void. Not retreat signals, but doctrines, tactics laced with human ethics. Sacrifice without mercy, ingenuity forged in blood. The 1,000-to-1 lesson etched into their code, and beyond, shadows stirred. The next enemy watched, learning.